let's get it.
Yo, this is Teresa Weatherspoon, better known as Teaspoon, and you're watching Real Fans, Real Talk.
Live from the can. Vibe you can.
This is Real Fans, Real Talk. Real fans, real talk. We as real as you thought. Real fans.
What's going on? Welcome to another live edition of Real Fans, Real Talk. Right back in the thick of things. Playoff basketball is going down. WNBA is in full effect. Got a little injury in the WNBA. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But before we get into all of that, let me introduce my co-host, my brother, Eric Sanchez, a.k.a. Legend in Two Games. What's going on, man?
What's really good, bro?
We got to get you back up to New York a little bit more because we be having too much fun when you get up here.
That's
what we're here all day. We ain't gonna
that's
talk.
A fact. That's a fact.
But all right, man. You know what? We just gonna get straight to it. The elephant in the room.
Shout out to the comment section buzzing.
Yes. The New York Knickerbockers lose games 1 and games 2 at home, but I guess they get back to their old ways of coming back from 20-point wins in game 3 on the road. Eric, what the hell happened to the Knicks?
Well, game 1 is always going to be, depending on how the series plays out, game 1 is going to be the one that we look back on and kind of say that was either a massive comeback that led the Pacers to the NBA Finals, or it was just a blip in the matrix and the Knicks were able to still figure it out the rest of the series. Game 1 is going to be the outlier. It's one of the probably strangest endings to a game we'll ever see. I don't know if we've ever seen it. I know personally I've never seen anything like it. I don't think in the history of watching basketball over 30 years for myself and you that we've ever seen anything like that, where the Knicks not only blow the 14-point lead, but Aaron Nesmith, who is not known as a sharpshooter, turns into Steph Curry on steroids, hits 5 3-pointers in a matter of 2 minutes. You get Tyrese Halliburton getting, though I like Halliburton, it is one of the luckiest bounces you're ever going to see on a shot. It hits the rim, goes directly in the air, and comes right back down. And the Knicks end up losing in overtime, 138-135. Outside of that 2.5-minute stretch, this series has gone, I think, the way we thought it was going to go. These teams are very evenly matched. Overall, again, game 1, the Pacers win by 3. Game 2, the Pacers win by 5. Yesterday, the Knicks win by 6. All these games are close. We expected these games to be close. And I don't think that what the Knicks did yesterday is anything different than, as you mentioned, that what we've seen all playoffs. Against Boston, they did it 2 times, down 20. And let's not forget the game 4 when they were down 14 points and come back and win that game. And against Detroit, they were down 16 in game 1, and then campaign gets hot in the second half, and the Knicks win that game. This is just who the Knicks are for whatever reason. It's frustrating to watch. Believe me, it's frustrating to watch. But it just seems like when that switch is flipped with them, when their intensity level goes up a little bit, when their speed and their decision-making goes up a little bit, they turn into this type of team that can literally walk you down and come back from any deficit. So I think that 2-1, this series could be either way, but I got to give the Pacers credit for their comeback in game 1 and then being able to handle business in game 2. I think the series is correct. They're up 2-1, but the Knicks do have momentum after stealing yesterday's game.
But shout out to Tyson. Tyson says Knicks make a big comeback last night to beat the Pacers. Karl Towns went into beast mode, and Hart. I don't know how many rebounds he had. I think he had like 10. No, did he have 10 off the bench?
Yeah, 10. He just missed a double yesterday.
Yeah, he had 8 points, 10 rebounds. But he was rebounding his ass off in the 4th. Can New York win game 4? Yes. But they gotta stick to the formula. This is the formula to win. Towns got to step up. This was, when we spoke about this a week ago, I said this was supposed to be Towns series, so he has to step up. He showed us that in game 3, stepping up big time in the 4th quarter. You gotta love. I mean, he was just all over the place, getting to the basket, the quick release on the 3. He was doing everything in the 4th quarter. And ultimately the Knicks got the win, but they gotta stay with that. Towns has to go off. He's the guy that Indiana really does not have an answer for. So he has to do what he did to this team all regular season long. Again, yeah, I mean, I'm not a Knicks fan, so I guess maybe if y'all want to say my New York bias, but I do think that the series is going to go back to Madison Square Garden tied up.
I think it will as well, just because, like I mentioned, these games have been so close. I don't think that you can count the Knicks out of winning 2 road games. And one of the things that I think Reggie Miller and the broadcast has done a good job, because Reggie, I think yesterday was on it early. He talked about it right before halftime when the Knicks went on a little bit of run to cut the lead from 20 to 13. And he said he didn't like the body language of the Pacers. It almost felt like they felt once they went up 20 and Halliburton screaming at the crowd that they kind of felt like, oh, we got this in the bag, and the Knicks started walking them down. But another thing that the broadcaster said from game one was how good both these teams were on the road. Both these teams coming into this game were both 5-1 in their previous series on the road. So neither one of these teams is scared to have to go and win an important game. That's why I think the Knicks do have a chance. Josh Hart was great yesterday. Josh Hart, a little bit of a redemption game, though, because in game two, he deserved a little bit more criticism than he got. He did not rebound the ball well in game two. It was the reason why Tibbs went with Mitchell Robinson to start yesterday and brought Hart off the bench to try to bring a little bit more energy and control the boards a little bit better. But Josh Hart was all over the place, making a lot of the big plays. And again, he is one of those guys that when the intensity level just ratchets up just a little bit to that next level, he can be a difference maker because of all the things he can do. Karl-Anthony Towns, though, I think Cat has been what we thought, Trip. I know he can be hot and cold at times, but when you look at his numbers, I mean, he had 35 and 12 in game one. Yeah. He played his ass off in game one. It's just that it gets overshadowed by the fact that the Knicks blew a 14-point lead. Then he comes back yesterday with 24 and 15. You know, even in game two, it wasn't his best game two, but he was 20 and 7. So he's had good games. I think that people expect him to be like a dominant big man. That's not his game. He's more of a finesse guy. But when he is in rhythm, he's able to knock down the threes and then able to get to the basket and then have the dunk and show you the total package. That's when we as fans kind of like, yo, this dude has it all. And we just wish we saw it all the time from him.
Well, that's the thing. It's about the impact that good game has on, you know, the impact your individual performance has on the outcome of the game. The impact, that was Towns' game, and that he took over in the second half. The numbers had the impact to it as well. It wasn't just like, he filled up the stat sheet tonight. It looked good. He made that game for the New York Knicks, especially late in the third, going into the fourth quarter. He took over that game. That's what we need to see. We need to see that impactful Karl-Anthony Towns because he is a unicorn. There's not too many 7-footers that can do all of the things that Karl-Anthony Towns can do offensively. So we need that from Karl-Anthony Towns if the Knicks are going to come back in this series and get the W.
Yeah.
Let me go to Scoop Hoop's comments. Scoop Hoop. Shout out to Scoop Hoop. I've been helping out Scoop Hoop this week with some posts. Y'all make sure y'all follow Scoop Hoop. Scoop Hoop. Throw the name of the group that you created in the chat, and I'm gonna shout y'all out. But Scoop Hoop says, why don't Towns Jr. play like that every game? And I'm not talking about having a great game, but the approach to the game in terms of being active and aggressive. Again, that's what we're saying. It's about the impact. Like, yeah, you can have 30 and it just be like, all right, he had 30, but it didn't really mean nothing. That 30, it didn't really impact the course of the game. So that's just say, yeah, he has to. We need to see more of the Towns taking over because he can take over against most teams. He can do a lot. He's one of the best and most all-around offensive guys in the league. So he can do it. He just has to make it impactful. So that's
his skill set is very rare for somebody that size to be able to shoot, play with his back to the basket. And then you saw it yesterday when he wants to put the ball on the floor and get past you, he can get past most guys. He can do it all. I just think the only thing with Towns that we would like, when I say we, not only you and I, Trip, but even what Scoop Hoop is saying and with people who love basketball, is for him to just be more aggressive from the start of the game. If he brought you like an intensity that was at a higher level, similar to like a KG, we wouldn't have this conversation. But because he seems so nonchalant about it, it's almost like we want more from him. But we forget, again, the dude, you know, on the season against the Pacers, I think he averaged something like 31 and 12 in every matchup. He had 35 and 12 out the gate in game one. You know what I'm saying? He has a great fourth quarter yesterday. Yes, it's frustrating because he was quiet for 3 quarters. But ultimately, like I said, when he turns it on, he can be one of the great players in the game. I think we just want him to be more assertive from jump.
Yes, exactly. Shout out to Brandon Chambers. He says, did the Knicks win because of Tibbs or in spite of him? Why don't he use his bench more? All right, so here's my thing. I will say this. A lot of times, not necessarily a lot of times, but there have been some times where I've seen in losses where I'm kind of blaming Tibbs for the loss, and not because of his coaching job, because I do think he's one of the better coaches in the league, but because of his time management. And I felt like in game one, the guys were playing so many minutes. Sometimes it's gonna catch up to you, and I think they kind of just ran out of steam and couldn't hold it up in the fourth quarter anymore. And it's because these guys are playing 40 plus minutes a night, and the rotation is down to what, 7, sometimes 8. Since the playoffs started. So in those situations, yeah. But for the most part, I think Tibbs is one of the better coaches that we've seen in this league. He's been one of the better coaches for some time now. So I still want to put some respect on his name, but I think I don't think it's a situation where they won game 3 in spite of him.
No, you can't say they won it in spite of him. I thought Tibbs yesterday is the outlier, and I think Tibbs gets some unfair criticism from people because these narratives get created based off of what we expect a head coach to be.
Mhm.
We're saying, why doesn't Tibbs use the bench more? And then we're going to try to use yesterday as an example because they won. Well, he had to use the bench yesterday because Karl Anthony Towns and Brunson both had 5 fouls. So he had no choice. He had to protect them at some point so that they wouldn't foul out of the game. But ultimately, my question back to Brandon Chambers or anybody else is, who is he going to off the bench? Because outside of Deuce McBride, who you trust, right? Yeah, Mitchell Robinson is getting big minutes for him. Those are the 2 guys that you trust the most. Mitch because of his defensive rebound, and Deuce because Deuce can knock down some threes and give you some offense in short spurts. But outside of that, Darrell Wright, a guy who we picked up late in the season, didn't play much for us. Before this series, I think he only had 2 minutes of playing time in these playoffs. Landry Shamet was hurt most of the year, so he didn't get a chance to play with this team and really develop some sort of flow with the team. Mm-hmm. Cam Payne has got minutes, but Cam Payne is very hot and cold. And so when you get the good campaign like you got in game 1 against the Pistons, yeah, you let him stay out there for 12 to 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. But when you get the campaign that's struggling and turning the ball over, I can't leave you out there for too long. And then also my next question to that is, you're saying, why doesn't he use the bench more? So who from the starting 5 would you want to see play less? Because you're not putting Brunson and Cat on the bench for an extended period of time, right? OG and Bridges are your 2 best perimeter defenders. So you're not putting them on a bench for an extended period of time. And Josh Hart might be your best all-around player in terms of everything he does. So which one of the 5 guys would you say, hey, you need to play him less? There isn't a guy you can counsel. I think Tibbs does the job as best he can based on the roster that they have. They don't have much punch off of the bench. In short spurts, yes, Deuce McBride can give you some things in short spurts, but you're not playing Deuce McBride 20 minutes off the bench. You're not doing that. And again, which one of the guys from the starting 5 would you then want to see on the bench more? Because I think all those guys contributed in their own way. And through these playoffs, we've seen that. All these guys have had their own moments throughout the playoffs because that's the type of players they are. Bridges has had some good moments. OG has had some good moments. Karl Anthony Towns, Brunson, Hart has had 2 triple-doubles in the playoffs. So which one of the 5 guys would you say needs to be on the bench more?
Well, what we should be talking about is the coaching adjustments that Tibbs made, because he brings Mitchell Robinson to the starting lineup. Right. They take game 3. You know what I mean? Now let's see what Indiana does to get back. Shout out to Imani. She says, hey, fellas, your boy Trip was up at 7 a.m. We was going back and forth, LOL. But look at you, New York cats, thinking Knicks got a chance, LOL. Well, first of all, I'm not even a Knicks fan, but I'm still going to rep for New York. You know what I'm saying? And on top of that, Tyrese Halliburton has officially put himself on my list because I don't like people disrespecting New York. And when he tried to copy a Hall of Famer, one of the greats, and Reggie Miller, and do this in the Garden, he had to go on the same list that I have Paul Pierce on right now, which then makes me want the Knicks to win even more. Normally I wouldn't care, but the fact that you did that and you disrespected New York, yeah, now I want the Knicks to win even more. You know what I'm saying? Not just because I'm from New York, but now just because you did that, I want them to win this series.
First of all, it was corny when Halliburton did that because, again, it's one of the luckiest shots you're ever going to see. Find me 10 clips of shots that have actually hit the rim, go straight up in there, and then come back down through the net. It never happens. Now, there would have been a clean jumper and he makes it. Then I could understand him doing the choke sign. But to hit a lucky shot and then act as if like, yeah, I'm like that. Stop. It was corny. Amadi, though, your hate for New York is showing because for you to say, look at y'all thinking New York's got a chance, why wouldn't New York have a chance? Every game in the series has been close, right? Again, game 1 was decided by 3 points. and the Knicks were up. Game 2 was decided by 5 points, and the Knicks were down 3 with the ball, and Brunson misses a 3 that would have tied the game. And then game 3, the Knicks win by 6, and again another close game. So why wouldn't the Knicks feel like they have a chance? The games have all been competitive. At no point in this series have nobody could say, even when the Pacers were up 0-2 going into yesterday's game, that you could say, hey, the Pacers are way better than the Knicks. They had just out-executed the Knicks through the first 2 games. But you could not say, hey, they're way better than the Knicks. The games have been very close and competitive. And if the Knicks win tomorrow, you're going to change your tune, because then now the Knicks will be going back home for game 5 with all the momentum. So you can't say we thinking the Knicks got a chance. You sounded like a hater right now, Monty. I'm sorry to just call it what it is. You sounded like a hater.
Well, you know, the Pistons got sent home in the first.
Yeah, I was going to ask Monty what time her team played. What time her team plays? what game y'all got?
Shout out to Devontae Harris. He says, is Tyrese Halliburton a star? Not a superstar. No, he's not a superstar. Yeah, we spoke about this a week ago. He is a star right now. He is an all-star. He's got to do a little bit more before you can get to superstar status. And one of the things we mentioned, that it's a little, it takes a little more on the resume when you come from when you're playing for a smaller market team to become a superstar. So he still has a little ways to come. Getting to the finals would definitely help with that. Obviously, winning and getting the finals MVP would really help with that. But he still has some ways to go before he's reaches superstar status.
Yeah, I don't think he's a superstar. We talked about this last week. I also think that it's a tough title to put on him, because his style of play isn't conducive of that of somebody who's a superstar. He is a traditional point guard. I think he's a great table setter. He's a good defender. But if you put him in a situation where he had to literally carry a team, I don't think he's that type of player. I think he's good for this situation with Indiana, where you have this combination of guys who he can just set the table for. And you see it all the time, pick and roll game with Miles Turner and the great passes, out on the open floor with Obi Toppin, letting Neesmith come off the screens, getting everybody involved, and then still being able to get his shot. He's a great point guard. I think he's a legitimate star. He's not superstar status, though.
Let me go up to Tyson. Tyson had another Knicks comment I want to get to. I'm not saying the Knicks are better without Brunson, but don't it seem like the ball movement is better with him out? Well, they're definitely not better without Brunson. That's for sure. I mean, that's all NBA Brunson right there. But I don't know. That's a tough one, because it looks smooth in game 3, because we had just coming off of 2 losses. They were struggling. They were down in this game, and obviously Brunson is in foul trouble, so you have to go with something different. But 9 out of 10 times, do you want Jalen Brunson off the floor if you're the New York Knicks? I doubt that very much.
It's crazy. First of all, this sounds like one of them ESPN First Take narratives. Remember when they tried to say the same thing about Jason Tatum? Like, is Boston better? Like, stop. The guy's second team All NBA. No one was even asking, are they better without Jalen Brunson after he hit the game-winning shot to end Detroit off? Nobody was asking that when he was going crazy against Boston. Is the ball movement stagnant at times? Yeah, absolutely. But I think that has more to do with the coaching and the game plan than Jalen Brunson himself. Jalen Brunson in game 2 had 36 points and 11 assists. So he was getting people involved. The ball movement was fine. But then you have moments where Jalen Brunson may only have 5 assists, again, because there are times where they become more isocentric. And also, you see it at times, too, where other guys on the team kind of look to Jalen Brunson to bail them out. There are a lot of possessions where nobody's moving, and it's almost like, just let Jalen go to work. So I don't think we should blame Jalen Brunson for the times when the ball movement isn't better than it should be. I think overall Jalen Brunson is a great, great player. He does exactly what he's supposed to do for this team. And when he goes into creator mode, like we saw in game 2, he can do that as well. Again, he had 11 assists. So he can do that. But I think most times it calls for him to just be the offensive spark.
Eric, Imani says she may be hating a little bit, but don't be bringing up her Pistons.
I love your honesty. See, I respect the honesty. At least you saying it, you call it what it is.
That's a fact. All right, let's get to the Western Conference Finals. Timberwolves, woo! They came back game 3. They look like a team to beat right there in game 3. They came out the gate smoking, and they did not look back. And they get the win, and they kind of embarrassed them boys out there. That got ugly really fast. Let me go to Devontae Harris's comment. Timberwolves was impressive in game 3. Ant-Man had one of his best games of these playoffs. What adjustments did the Wolves make? Man, I don't know. I just felt like this was two different teams completely. I think everything, any adjustment that was possible to make, they made in this game, and it showed because OKC did not know what to do with Minnesota from the starting tip to the buzzer at the end of the fourth quarter. They were off to the races, like, and it is not even like because Minnesota was decent in games 1 and 2, and obviously they take the losses. OKC, this is the first time I've seen OKC look bad in the playoffs. Like they looked completely out of sync. Everything that we had been seeing leading up to game 3, there's like they forgot everything, and this is a completely different team. And Minnesota Timberwolves completely stepped their game up at home. Do they win by 30 plus again in game 4, or do they win game 4? I definitely think they can win game 4. I don't know about if it's going to be a crazy blowout like this, like game 3 was, but yeah, Minnesota definitely made the right adjustments, and that's what we saw in game 3.
A couple things in game 3, and I went back just to double check. Because I wanted to like kind of cross-reference them with the numbers of the other games. But the first thing that stuck out to me was the three-point shooting. Minnesota shot the ball way better in game 3 from the 3 than they did in the previous 2. In game 1, they were 29%. In game 2, they were 28%. In game 3, they were 50%. And pretty much about the same amount of threes because they took 40 in game 3. They took 39 in game 2. They took 51 in game 1. So the shooting percentage there was better. Rebounding across the board was pretty even. The next thing was turnovers. 19 turnovers in game 1, which led to 31 points for OKC. 14 turnovers in game 2, which led to 22 points. In game 3, only 10 turnovers, which led to 16 points. So eliminating the turnovers, shooting better from the 3, and then points in the paint. In game 1, they got outscored by 34 points in the paint. In game 2, they got outscored by 14 points in the paint. In game 3, they outscored OKC by 14 points. So the fact that they were able to shoot the 3 ball better, the fact that they were able to control the paint better, and the fact that they eliminated turnovers really led to this blowout. Now, can they duplicate that same type of effort tonight? I think so. Will they blow Oklahoma City out? No, they won't. They won't blow them out just because they'll play better. But I do think if they can at least eliminate the turnovers, shooting 50% from 3 is tough. I don't know if you can do that night in, night out. But if you can eliminate the turnovers and control the paint, I think Minnesota has a chance tonight to possibly even the series up.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe somewhere in the range of 7 to 12 point win tonight, and definitely not another blowout. But I do think they even up the series, and I think that's going to be great for the fans because I think we could wind up having 2 7-game series for the Eastern and the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, I mean tonight's important because if you're Minnesota, I don't think you can afford to go back to OKC down 3-1, especially not with the way those first 2 games went. You got to try to win tonight. And then you look to steal one in Minnesota, whether in game 5 or possibly game 7. So their scenario is a little different than the Knicks, at least with the Knicks. Not saying that the Knicks want to lose tomorrow, but if the Knicks were to lose tomorrow, you at least know you're going back home. For Minnesota, you lose tonight, you're going on the road, and that arena's going to be going crazy.
Exactly. Shout out to Pooh. Pooh says, what did y'all put? What up? Did y'all put some food away today? The gym will be my homie tomorrow. But explain to me how do NBA teams lose by 20, 30, even 40 points? If you give effect, that should never happen. Oh, I guess she feels like that should never happen. Well, first of all, it is right. It is Memorial Day, so shout out to all of our veterans. That put work in to defend this country. I did have a little barbecue. I had a couple of burgers. My bro was downstairs in front of the crib with the grill on, so I did get to have a few burgers. But in regards to these teams losing by 20, 30, even 40 points, sometimes you catch teams off guard. It is what it is, because you think by now, once you get to the Western Conference Finals, you pretty much locked into the best of the best in the league. But listen, Mike Tyson got knocked out by Buster Douglas, right? It's sometimes you catch him off guard, and it could be a blowout. Guys you start off cold, and you just can't catch a rhythm, shooting wise. And then on the other side of that, you just feel like your opponent, every shot is just freaking is going in. Every loose ball is going their way, every call is going, and then next thing you know, this thing went from 10 to 30, and it cost them 5 minutes, and you don't know what the hell happened. But it does happen.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, Pooh, when you're a team like Oklahoma City, you're up 2-0, and now you've been hearing all the talks. You guys are so great. This series is over. It's easy to become complacent. It's easy to feel like, all right, we just got to show up and we're good. And you face a team that's a little more desperate, a little hungrier, and sometimes the team just plays a lot better than you that day. I thought Oklahoma City in that game kind of called off the dogs very early. If you look at the minutes played by the starters, I don't know if she even got to 25 minutes played in that game. They called off the guys pretty quickly. They knew it was over early, and they didn't put the effort in to try to come back. Now, had this been a 2-1 series or a game 5 or a game 7, maybe Oklahoma City does put more effort into trying to come back. But sometimes when you're up 2-0 and you can feel it early, like, hey, this just isn't our night, you call off the dogs and you say, all right, we just get ready for the next one.
Yeah. So there you go. Let me go back up to the top. Hold on 1 second. I know I saw another Timberwolves question up here. Oh, wait. You know what? Actually, do we get to this one? I want to. Devontae Harris says Jeff T calls Jalen Brunson a ball hog. Any truth to it? No, I have not seen that. I mean, he's averaging damn near a double-double. So in the playoffs, I don't know how he's a ball hog. Now he does score a lot, but I don't see him being a ball hog though. The Knicks have a pretty steady flow on offense.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, Jalen Brunson is a high usage guy, and to me, to use the term ball hog is almost detrimental. It's almost like saying you're not a good player, but you're just looking for your own shot.
Yeah.
Well, Jalen Brunson doesn't do that. He's a high usage guy, but that's no different than Luka. That's no different than Trae Young. I mean, a lot of point guards or lead guards are high usage guys. The difference is, are you looking for your own shot or are you looking to distribute for somebody else? That's really the difference. So I don't consider him a ball hog at all.
Yeah. Let me come up here. Shout out to Ron. If the Wolves win tonight, will this go 7? There's a very good chance that this goes 7 if the Timberwolves win tonight, because they got that home cooking. That's what that's going to mean. And you know, right now they're in the perfect position because now you can put the pressure right back on OKC, because it's like, all right, we lost 2, but then we came back home. We spanked y'all in game 3. And then, now if you say we win game 4, now the pressure's back on y'all. But I do think if, Timberwolves get the job done today, I think the OKC wins game 5. But I think this will go 7.
If Timberwolves win tonight, I think it does go 7 as well. I agree, because just the level of confidence and to know that you were able to respond after those first 2 games. And as I highlighted when I went over the numbers, you would think that if they win tonight going back home, they would play better than they did in game 1 and game 2 in terms of shooting the 3 and controlling the paint. So if they win tonight, I think there's a really good chance the Wolves will find a way to at least win 1 more game in the series to force 7 games.
One of the Morris twins said today that of the 4 teams, none are great. He was saying like Warriors and Celtics. I kind of agree. I understand that because none of these teams have won a championship yet, and we don't classify teams as being great unless you win. And there's also no history really with any of these teams, because you got, obviously the Knicks have championships, but we're talking about 73 and 70. And then you have the Timberwolves, OKC. OKC's been to the NBA Finals. They don't have a championship. Same thing with Indiana. There's no championship. So there's no even a history or lineage for teams to bank off of. So it's kind of like we start from scratch. There's a bunch of teams that haven't won anything yet. This is how you get to that point to being a great team. Whoever wins this one will be on course, because we're talking about 4 of the younger teams in the NBA, which means that they have a chance to be good for a couple of years. So we'll see that now.
Absolutely. This is completely a clickbait comment by the Morris twin, because as you mentioned, greatness is defined by winning in championships. None of these 4 teams have won a championship. Out of the 4, the only one that has any type of history of winning a championship is the Knicks, and obviously we know that was over 50 years ago. So to say, none of these teams are great, Of course, they're not great. None of them have been to an NBA Finals. And we're only considering the Celtics great because they won last year. Had the Celtics not won last year, we would never put the current Celtics group in the conversation with greatness. We didn't put Miami in the conversation with greatness, even though they had gone to 2 finals in 4 years. So we don't put Dallas in the conversation of greatness just because they went to the finals. So for him to compare them to the Celtics, like I said, is clickbait. I will say this, though. I think this is good for the NBA because it is a passing of the guard. And one of the things, shout out to all our supporters. I know this is one of the things you guys have been saying all year about kind of the older guard leaving the game, Steph being older, Braun being older, KD being older, and we see this new wave. And we're also seeing this new wave of teams because if you look at these 4 teams, the way they're currently constructed, they could be in the mix for the next few years. So to see them go at it now for a chance to win their first championship, but then also knowing these could be budding rivalries moving forward, I think it's great for the game.
Absolutely. Let me come down here. Hold on 1 second. Okay, let me go to Tyson's comment. I've been wanting to get to this. Give me your thoughts on the All NBA teams and what changes would you have made. Well, first of all, let me just tell y'all, if you don't already know, All NBA first team is obviously Shea, who's our regular season MVP, Nikola Jokic, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, and Giannis. Second team All NBA, Jalen Brunson, Steph Curry, Anthony Edwards, LeBron, and our defensive player of the year, Evan Mobley. And the third team is Imani's guy from the Detroit Pistons, Kate Cunningham, Tyrese Halliburton, James Harden, Karl Anthony Towns, and Jalen Williams, who also plays for OKC. I don't have any problems with the All NBA teams. I'm pretty, I think it's right for the most part. So I'm pretty I'm pretty cool with this list. Because I mean Jokic obviously was MVP candidate. Shea is the MVP. Cleveland best record in the Eastern Conference. Jason Tatum, and then Giannis. So I'm okay. I'm okay with that. I thought LeBron had a great year. I thought LeBron could have made the first team if he didn't get injured towards the end of the season. So I'm okay with that. Evan Mobley on the second team, I'm cool with. Anthony Edwards, Steph. Yeah, I'm pretty much I'm good with these lists.
I'm okay with the list. I think All NBA has become very difficult now because we got to factor in games played, and we know that changes stuff. But I'm okay with the list overall. I know some people will question about Braun being on the second team, but I thought Braun was deserving. Other than that, and I've heard a couple people question like Braun being on the second team, but I thought overall Braun had that type of year. He should be recognized as one of the top 15 guys in the game, especially when you factor in injuries and guys missing time that disqualified him for the award. So overall, I'm good with it.
Exactly. All right, let me see. Hold on, what we got over here because I don't want to miss nobody's question. Then we got to go back up to the top two. Okay. What we got here? Fun thing. Oh, see who? Come on, Ron. Don't come on, man. Stop. Don't start me. Don't start me up. Don't start me up. Yes, I said it. If he didn't get hurt, LeBron was balling before he got hurt. That's why he made the second team because he was balling.
I don't think he would have made the first team even if he didn't get hurt though. Who are you taking off the first team?
Well, I have to see how LeBron's stats would have looked towards the end of the year.
I mean, even let's say nah, he didn't have a better season than Tatum.
I would say them all, but
nah, he didn't have a better season than Tatum.
We'll see. But all right,
let me that's saying a lot if I'm defending Jason Tatum. He didn't have a better season than Jason Tatum.
Ron says, did anyone see the report that Michael Jordan is getting paid $40 million? If he is, God bless him. He's still the man. Because getting paid $40 million to do anything is a blessing. So shout out to MJ. Listen, you got to know your worth. And that man knows his worth. So if he's getting paid $40 million, guess what? He's worth every dollar. He is, you know what I'm saying, mostly recognized as the GOAT. What he's done for the sport of basketball as a player, what he's done for the sport of basketball after being retired for 20 plus years now. So yeah, he deserves every penny of it. I'm not.
Yeah, no. Well, Jordan Brand obviously is the most successful line under Nike. So we know the Jordan brand is still thriving and surviving, doing big numbers. He's also coming on board with NBC as a special correspondent for next year. So I'm sure they had to cut him a nice check because Mike doesn't do a lot of media. So for him to do that, there was a nice bag attached to it. And I'm sure other stuff, other endeavors and business moves that he got going on.
Giannis had a meeting this week with the Bucks, and they say he didn't request a trade. All right. I mean,
that's what they say.
Yeah, I mean, listen, whatever. Like it doesn't matter until we actually see it happen, or it doesn't happen. Realistically, like that's the thing about that. Like, yeah, it's cool to speculate, but if we hear it, we're gonna hear it, and then we'll start. It'll be off to the races. The media will go crazy.
Yeah, Trip, sometimes I get a call from my daughter's school, and then when I ask her, what did you do today? And she says nothing. I mean, it's no different than this. Yeah, they say he didn't request a trade, but what are y'all meeting about then? What conversations are y'all having? And let's keep it a buck. This Giannis thing has kind of been circulating for like 2 years now. It was the reason why they made the trade for Dame Lillard 2 seasons ago, because they knew Giannis was starting to get unhappy with the direction of the organization. So now here we are 2 years later after the Dame trade. They haven't been out of the first round since acquiring Dame Lillard. They haven't been out of the second round since they won the championship 4 years ago. Robin Lopez is old. Brooke Lopez is old. Sorry. Bobby Portis is old. Dame Lillard is probably going to miss most of next year. So Giannis is looking
do nothing for them.
Right. So Giannis is looking around and saying, "Hey, look, I'm looking at some teams in the East. You talk about the Knicks and the Pacers are getting better. Orlando's a young team. Orlando's getting better. Cleveland is probably going to be in the mix again next year because unless they make some drastic trades, they're going to be in the mix. If I'm Giannis, do I want to stick around and continue to be a guy who is great individually, but as a team, maybe not better than the first or second round exit?" So I think Giannis is on his way out.
Yeah, because even with having Dame, he's gonna miss most of the years. He's gonna really be back in playing shape and ready to try to make a playoff run. Because without Dame, there's not too much moves they're gonna be able to make to really improve this team, and then he's gonna miss most of the year. So who knows where they'll be record wise by the time the playoffs even come around. So yeah, it's probably he's probably looking for some ways out. School Poop says Stephon Marbury, how many years did he play for the Knicks? And overall, should he be in the Hall of Fame? Steph played 5
I believe he
years.
played with us. I was going to say 4 seasons with us. Yeah.
And is he a Hall of Famer? Come on, man. Is that even a serious question when it comes to Stephon Marbury? Like, I think, excuse me. I think what happens is we forget sometimes that the Hall of Fame is not the NBA Hall of Fame. It's the Basketball Hall of Fame, which means that it includes everything from high school to college to the NBA to playing overseas to the Olympics. All of that stuff is included when you're talking about the Basketball Hall of Fame. And if you guys forget, Stephon Marbury has 2 statues in China right now. I think he won back-to-back championships over there. Like, Stephon Marbury, he's probably on the same level as Yao Ming in China. Like, that's how much winning he's done in China. Like, the fact that you have not 1 but 2 statues in a whole other continent. Like, come on, man. This shouldn't even be a question. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Correct. Naismith Hall of Fame is total basketball resume, so he should be in the Hall of Fame. Now, will he be a first ballot? Is probably a trickier question because it also depends on who's up that year on the ballot. But ultimately, he should be in the Naismith.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think he's first ballot Hall of Fame because again,
it's going to be tough.
But think about it, right? Again, Steph had a really good NBA career. Like we're not gonna act like he was no scrub in the NBA and then went over to China.
Hell no.
Steph was one of the top half of the league, multiple All-Star, so he did very well in the NBA. But I just think the accolades, when you include high school, college, and then when he did it in China, I feel like he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Well, the thing is,
if you're on the ballot with, let's just say you're on the ballot with Melo, Wade, Bosh, a couple, you know what I'm saying? The guys make because there's only a certain select few that's going to make it in every year, maybe. But if it's like, I think he has a good chance of being the first ballot Hall of Famer.
I think again, who's on the ballot for his career. He's a 2-time All-Star. I think he was 3-time All NBA. I'm not sure first, second, and third, but I think he's got a couple of those.
Mhm.
I think he was second in Rookie of the Year behind AI that year. He might have been second or third in voting that year. So it was a good NBA career. Again, no Trip. Like there isn't any MVPs or MVP top 5 finishes. He doesn't have enough All NBA teams where you can say this is a lot. So when you include everything from China, yes, it makes it more appealing. But that's why I don't know if it's going to be a first ballot. I think this might be one of them where after they sit and reflect and be like, all right, yeah, Steph does deserve to be in. But a lot of times those first ballot guys are guys that wow you right away. Like if you see their name on the ballot, it's like, yeah. Now, you could get one of them down years. Because remember when Tracy McGrady went in, it was kind of one of them down years where T-Mac was by far the best player on that list. And then I think everybody after that, I think that was the same year that Ben Wallace got in. You know what I'm saying? It was
if T-Mac and Steph's in the same year, trying to go into the Hall of Fame, who gets picked first? If there's only one spot left,
T-Mac. Yeah, I think T-Mac was a better overall player.
Yeah. What about the resume? You think he has a better resume than Steph?
Yeah, if you look at his NBA resume, yeah, because T-Mac got a couple MVP top 5 finishes. He's I mean, and granted, some of that is based in longevity because he played in the NBA longer than Steph did.
Yeah.
But if you look at all NBA teams, top 5 MVP finishes, T-Mac got a scoring title, I believe. Like his resume is stronger than Steph's. I think Steph's overall body of work, his impact on the game, and that's where the Naismith Hall of Fame comes in. His impact on the game, as you mentioned, his impact in China and all those things. Yeah, he gets in because of that. But if you're talking purely NBA resume, T-Mac's NBA resume is better than Steph.
Okay. Shout out to Will Gordon. What it do, baby? 5 mics, 5. Oh my goodness, 5 boroughs, 5 trains, Pacers, and 5. Will coming in starting this mess already. Stop.
Shout out to my brother Will Gordon. Listen, he already said he's staying with the 5. He's staying with the 5 theme in recognition of Club.
Yeah, he did. He did let us know.
He said that, so I'm not taking it personal. I just don't know what Will's gonna say after tomorrow, because then you can't say Pacers and 5 after tomorrow.
Hey, we're gonna see. It's going down. Let me see. Will says if coaches from overseas are in, they are. Starbury isn't for sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, and I don't think it's whether he goes in or not. It's just whether he would be able to get first ballot. Is Penny Hardaway in the Naismith Hall of Fame? I'm gonna have to say no, unless he has a lot more success as a coach. Because he definitely would have been if he didn't have the injuries that kind of derailed his career. He was definitely on track for that. But I just think the injuries cut his career so short that he's gonna need some extra help to kind of balance things out and get him into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Penny was on the ballot last year. He didn't get in. And so that's what I mean, that sometimes guys are really good players and they might not get in on the first ballot. I think Penny will ultimately get in. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I think Penny gets in. I don't want to assume that it's going to happen on the next go-round.
Let's talk a little bit of WNBA. Actually, you know what? Let me take this comment before we go there. Ron says, what's both of y'all thoughts on Michael Jordan's agent David Folk's comments? If you guys didn't hear the comments, he basically said if Jordan had cherry-picked teams and teammates like LeBron, he could have won 15 championships. I mean, I don't know about all that. I don't know about no 15 championships, but I do feel like he could have won more championships. But I just don't know about 15 because he wasn't even in the league long enough after he started winning championships to where I feel like he would have still been good enough to win more than, let's say, 10.
Yeah, I mean, we know he's exaggerating. He was not going to win 15 championships even if he cherry picked. Yeah. But I thought there was something else that David Falk said that was very telling, and he talked about the pressures on athletes to play in the social media era, and he said that's something that Mike didn't have to deal with.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very telling. But to bring it down to realistic expectations, if Mike did cherry pick, if Mike would have said, "Hey, I'm going to spend my last couple of years chasing championships," yeah, Mike could have probably got to 8 or 9 championships if he wanted to. Because when you consider when he retired at the end of 98, 99, 98.
Yeah.
He had 6 championships. He was 37 years old at the time, I believe. He definitely had enough left in the tank. His hand was kind of forced to retire because the Bulls made the decisions they made to let go of Phil Jackson, and they were going to move on from Scottie anyway. So it forced his hand. But if Mike had said, "Hey, I'm going to join up with other great guys and try to win another championship or two," he definitely had a high enough skill set at that point to go ahead and win maybe 2 more chips. And maybe we're talking about Mike sitting at 8 titles with the impressive resume as opposed to 6. And I don't want to say only 6, but you get the point.
Yeah, no, well, because listen, I'm still of the belief that there's a very good chance that Mike could have 8 straight if he doesn't retire. And I'll even go on to say, as I said, that's why I was saying I'll even give him 10 if he was to cherry pick, because I think maybe if he cherry pick, he probably get 2 more after the last 3, which will put him at 10. But now you're talking about Mike being even older. I don't know if he would have had enough left in the tank to get 5 more after that, like that. You know what I mean?
I don't think because when you're talking about that, you gotta consider, like, he's not gonna go to 15 straight NBA finals.
Exactly.
There's gonna be some years where they lose or injuries take hold or whatever. So now you're talking about Mike having to play probably like 22 years to be able to get to like 15 finals. You know what I'm saying? And that in itself would be crazy to think that he's gonna play that long, especially then. What LeBron is doing now is the ultimate outlier. Most guys don't play this long at this level, but a lot of that is a kudos to modern medicine and exercise and the analytics that we have to understand how you take care of your body so that you get the most years out of it. I definitely think, though, if Mike had cherry picked, he probably gets at least 2 more championships.
Yeah. How involved was LeBron in picking or helping get players on his team? Just as involved as any superstar who has that type of power is. The star players always have that kind of pull to get guys over. That's what it is. So he gets to say who comes and goes for. I mean, at this point in his career, probably not now, but during the first 15 years of his career, 15, 16 years of career, pretty sure he had as much power as any GM.
I think Braun was heavily involved in getting the players that he wanted. And you got to remember, there are a couple dynamics with LeBron's career. When he gets drafted in Cleveland, he is anointed the savior. He's the hometown kid that's expected to save the Cavs, who had never won a championship. So when Braun, in the beginning, they don't build much around him and he leaves to Miami. Cleveland at that point, when they pretty much beg him to come back, they give him the keys to the organization. And that's why you look, those 4 years when he came back to Cleveland, every year Cleveland was very active in making trades and picking up veteran free agents, trying to appease LeBron James so that they could win and keep him happy. And then that kind of followed him to LA as well. So we're talking Braun has been in the league 21 years. I would say easily he's had impact on 16 of those years where he's been the one pulling the strings on who to go get. Because the moment he went to LA, what happened? They started the conversation to go get Anthony Davis. They tried to get Kawhi over there, right? They talked about getting Paul George. When he came back to Cleveland, they immediately traded Andrew Wiggins, who was the #1 pick, to go get Kevin Love, along with other moves that they made. And they did the same thing in Miami. It wasn't just about him and the big three, because after year 1, they went and got Ray Allen. They went and got Mike Miller. So he's always been heavily involved in getting other guys to help him win.
Yeah. Will's taking shots clearly. There should be no LeBron talk unless we're talking best vacation spots. He's irrelevant. Will, he's more relevant than your Washington Wizards at this age. There you go. Let me go to Scoop Hoop, who says, I think Michael Jordan wasn't involved in picking players. Jerry Krause was letting no one run him. But the good thing, Krause was a great GM. No, I think Mike definitely had a little bit of pull in some of the guys that came through to the team. I think he definitely had a little say so.
Well, he had a voice in the room after they started winning. Early on, Mike didn't have much of a voice because It's been well documented that Charles Oakley was his best friend, and they traded Charles Oakley away early.
Yeah.
So I think early on, Mike didn't have a voice. He just had to kind of flow with it and figure it out. Once they started winning, then he had more of a voice. And also keep in mind, when they drafted Tony Kukoc, Mike didn't like that idea of drafting Tony Kukoc because it was viewed as like the eventual replacement for Scottie Pippen. So I think early on he did not have a voice. I think after they won a couple chips, he got a little more input because it's also been well documented that before they brought Rodman in, they spoke with Mike to see if he was okay with bringing Rodman in. Same thing with Ron Harper. They spoke with Mike to make sure he was okay with bringing Ron Harper in. So I would say probably the last 6 years of Mike in Chicago, coming out of the first three-peat, then he retires, but he's still connected to the organization, and he comes back. He had more of a voice in determining who they were going to get there. But Jerry Krause, as you mentioned, Jerry Krause, we know the battles that Jerry Krause had with Mike and Scottie. Jerry Krause was not going to give up the control he had over that organization. Jerry Krause was a pretty savvy general manager. One of the stories that's been coming up a lot lately is Tracy McGrady has talked about that he was almost traded for Scottie Pippen on draft night. And Mike stepped in and said, "You're not trading Scottie." So again, Mike had more of a voice, I think, after they won at least 2 championships.
It's crazy because that's actually a testament to how much Jordan cared about nothing but winning. Because now when we find out all these years later that they actually weren't even friends, they never even had a meal together, but you see Jordan still said, no, hold on. I don't want this kid. He ain't about to replace Scottie. You know what I'm saying? Like it definitely was all about winning with MJ. He ain't play that. All right. Devontae Harris says, if you're the Lakers GM, what do you do with an aging LeBron James to get better? This is Luka's team now. It was Luka's team when he got there last year. It's not, and then just become Luka's team. That's a tough one because you got to kind of make little smaller tweaks for right now. Because it's not like I see them trade on LeBron. So I think you just kind of got to make smaller tweaks now. And then you're gonna have Luka for a long time, I believe. So then you start if you want to change things up once LeBron retires. I don't see LeBron playing more than 2 years.
I already said if I'm the Lakers, if I want to get better, I'm hoping that LeBron James does not come back. And this is not about the resume of LeBron. I don't want to hear about what LeBron has done great in the past. Let's talk about what he is right now. He is a guy who takes up and eats up a lot of space within your organization. The moment you made the trade for Luka, this is Luka's team. You got to focus on building around Luka. If LeBron wants to come back, it's got to be on a vet minimum. I'm sorry. We can't pay you $50 million just because you're LeBron James and you eat up all that space in the salary cap just because you want to come back. You can go somewhere else for that. We're trying to build a winner around Luka, and we also got to give Luka his new deal. So if we're going to give Luka the keys to the organization and say we're signing you to the max and we're making you the guy, LeBron James, either you're going to be willing to be a role player within that or you got to go somewhere else. So if I'm the Lakers GM, if I'm Rob Pelinka, it's either you're coming back on a vet minimum so I can fill out this roster around Luka or you're going to have to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Scoop said, I see what he's saying because LeBron can't impact winning anymore.
I agree.
Will says, my Wizards and LeBron are on the same beach right now. They're not on the same beach. LeBron's beach comes with championship rings, so they're not the same beach. They are on the beach, but it's levels. It's like when you on difference in being on like Jones Beach or you on
Venice Beach.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's just there's different levels of beaches. But shout out to Will Gordon. Ron says Fever's Caitlin Clark out at least 2 weeks with a quad strain. Can Fever survive 2 weeks? They seem very deep this season. Well, we're gonna see. We definitely gonna see because 2 weeks can be a very long time when the games start adding up. I think they'll be all right, but again, this is also a team that's 2 years removed from being the worst team in basketball. So I don't know about how good they play because Caitlin Clark is this team pretty much. She makes this team go, and if she's not going to be there for 2 weeks, that's probably going to be like 5 games. I don't know.
I think they'll survive the 2 weeks. Because all we're saying is that you just got to tread water, be around 500, and keep yourself competitive till she comes back. So I think they'll survive for the 2 weeks. But Will they endure some losing and some tough times? Yeah, but 2 weeks. You figure in a 2 week span, you're probably playing about 8 games. If you can go 4-4, 3-6, yeah. I mean, 4-4, 3-5. I think you're fine. You'll be okay that way.
Let's go to Brandon Chambers. He says Brittany Griner recently, if you read her lips, said trash ass white girl. My question is Caitlin Clark an asshole on the court to where she gets under players' skin? She ain't the only player. If she is, there's a lot of players. You know what I'm saying? Listen, I don't know. You know how many stories I done heard about Kevin Garnett getting under somebody's skin? She ain't the only player. She's a tough competitor. She's one of the best players in the WNBA in her second year, and she talking her smack, but she's also backing it up. So shut it down or shut up. That's it.
Yeah, I mean,
Ruby Liberty did. You know what I'm saying? That's how you got to control Caitlin Clark. But we are the champs though. So
yeah, I'm okay with it. This is part of the game, and like I said, even if she did say trash ass white girl, I mean, there's a lot of dudes in the NBA that call each other trash. That's just typical trash talk. That ain't nothing special or nothing that's like over the top. Caitlin Clark probably talks a lot of ish, and that's fine. I'm sure a lot of players do. It's all in the competitive nature of the game. I think it's fine.
exactly, I love it. It's gonna sell more tickets. That's it. It's gonna sell more tickets. So keep watching the games because I'm gonna keep watching. Scoop Hoop says we have had the top generational players in Candace Parker, Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore. I said of these three, Parker probably is the most popular and more off-court stuff. So these players help grow the game. But what is it about Caitlin that she of any other player ever has this much impact in terms of TV ratings and sellouts, or just right time for her? I think it's a combination of a lot of things. It is right time because women's sports, but more specifically women's basketball, is probably the hottest it's ever been. Eric, you and I really started talking women's basketball a lot more during that run, that first year, when Caitlin Clark and they played against Angel Reese in LSU that year. But she's been one of the most popular players. So that's one thing, is the timing. The other thing is she's great because this doesn't come without you being great. Like, you have to, your talent has to be on the same and on that same level as well. And she has shown and proven that she is one of the best players in basketball. It's also excuse me, the storyline that she came into the league on, being connected to Angel Reese and their little rivalry in college that kind of led into the WNBA. It's how she plays the game, how she's adjusted to playing on the WNBA level, and she's not backing down from anybody. So yeah, she's going to get that.
Yeah, timing is everything, of course, but I also think her style of play. The WNBA was always going to be lacking because the WNBA didn't have like the high flying, explosive nature that the NBA has, right? Everything was below the rim. So when you get this young lady who can shoot from distance like Steph Curry, that's going to draw eyes and people are going to be intrigued by it. And then it became like the media's perspective of it, the good versus evil, right? Caitlin Clark and the small Iowa team against LSU in the powerhouse, good versus evil and those type of things. And everybody's rooting for her because she beat South Carolina in a tournament game. So it was the matter of all those things. And I think her style of play is very attractive for people because, again, nobody in the WNBA is running up and down the court dunking on people. Everything is below the rim. Everything is jump shot. So the fact that she's pulling up from the logo and can consistently hit that shot is going to be appealing for people.
I guess we should thank Steph Curry for that, because
that's the Steph Curry effect.
Yeah, popularizing the three and her being probably the best, or if not the best, one of the best shooters in women's basketball, she's going to benefit from that. You know what I'm saying? Like, cats is trying to be the shooters now. People still want to dunk, but Steph done turned this thing into a 3-point league. So Ron says Caitlin Clark, we all love what she has done for the WNBA, but I don't think players and fans should kiss her ass. Feel me? I feel when things are done to her, then media makes it like players picking on her. Well, I mean, those are the storylines, the narratives that players are going to get. For her, it's just going to be, after a while, what happens with, which is what's going to happen with a lot of players, is you don't win the big one, then they're going to start turning on you. And she'll get that. But right now, it's still hot. She's still a new thing, and she's not expected to win championships with the team that she's on. So she really doesn't have much pressure. She can actually just go out there and ball out. But let's give 5 years in the league and she ain't sniff a title. And the opinions gonna start to change. That's when we're gonna start to get all the comments. And is she really hurt? She hasn't got her team out of the first round of the play. That's when we're gonna start hearing all of that stuff. Give it 5 years. If she ain't won the championship, yeah, they gonna start.
I mean, I don't think players or fans are kissing her ass. Like I said, if you like her, you like it. If you don't, you don't. I don't think that has anything to do with kissing her ass. What I will say though, that one of the things that we've talked about here is that I think people lose sight of the fact that she's drawing attention to the league. And so I'm not saying anybody should kiss her ass for that or be grateful, but I think it should be one of those recognitions that, hey, look, this is a good thing for the league. We have people watching and paying attention and talking about us in a way that they've never talked about us before. And so you have some people who have gone out their way, I think, to intentionally hate on Caitlin Clark because they don't like the attention she's getting. That's a different narrative and that's a different conversation. But I don't feel like people are kissing her ass. I just think that right now she's a headline grabber. And if you love the sport of basketball, specifically women's basketball, we should appreciate that because now people are paying attention and watching the game in a way that they've never done before.
Pooh says, "What do y'all think of her foul on Angel Reese? Reese was ready to fight her. I mean, we spoke about this, but it's a basketball play. It's a hard foul. It is what it is. I didn't think they were going to fight, but you still got to jump up and show you got that dog in you, and that's what Angel Reese did. But yeah, I don't. It was all good. It was within the course of the game. It is what it is.
It was nothing wrong with the foul. It was a play on the ball. I've heard people try to make it seem like it wasn't. She clearly swipes down at the ball.
Yeah.
Angel Reese overreacted, which then to me turns it into people wanting to talk about it. What nobody's talking about though is there was a blatant foul on Angel Reese when she pushed a player in the back right before she was fouled. And so there might have been a part of Caitlin Clark who was taking up for her teammate, but nobody says that. Everybody just makes it seem like she just randomly fouled Angel Reese as if she wasn't making a play on the ball.
Yeah. Pooh says, but them lady school poop names are better than both Reese and Clark, and Diana is white, so why did she? Well, because the WNBA wasn't blown up like it was back then, so it's not going to be. You have to remember that women's basketball has had a huge, and I'm talking about remarkably huge jump over the last 2 years, and a lot of that is due to women's college basketball and what we saw with the battle between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. What Dawn Staley has been able to do with South Carolina, Paige, Juju. So over the last 2 years, the amount of eyes. Just think about how much we talk about the WNBA now. The numbers are through the roof right now. Women's basketball wasn't as received as it was when Diana Taurasi was one of the best players in the league.
Well, that's a part of the trip, but I also say this: it's not sexy to talk about the fundamentals. Why do we talk about Zion more than we talk about Tim Duncan? Tim Duncan is a far greater player.
Oh yeah,
Tim
absolutely.
Duncan is right. Just in terms of skill, but what's the sexier conversation? The dunks. Right? The physicality that Zion plays with. Nobody wants to talk about footwork and fundamentals. So Diana Taurasi was the footwork and the fundamentals. She is and was always better than Caitlin Clark. But was Diana pulling up in the logo? Right? No. Was she shooting 10 threes a game? No. Those things weren't sexy. She was playing beneath the rim, and it wasn't a sexy conversation. Caitlin Clark, like we talked about, the Steph Curry effect, the fact that she's shooting the way she can shoot, making the fancy passes, kind of playing like a Pistol Pete type style in college. Those are the things that get the conversation going. It's provocative. It gets the people going. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, what we said earlier, the Steph Curry effect. we love shooters. No matter women, men, we like the shooters, all right. And she's one of the best shooters, and she takes a lot of them, and they're usually, you know, when we see Steph Curry make that three, and that the feeling we get, or when we see Dame shooting and hitting his Dame time, that's the feeling we get when Caitlin Clark starts shooting the lights out too. So yeah, it's a different ball game. And again, none of those girls they weren't dunking like that. So there wasn't at that time. The big thing was if you were a dunker, you were probably the more popular of players, guys that was really flying out the gym. Now it's all about the shooter. So she's benefiting from the fact that she is a great shooter, and her rising popularity attributes to that.
Yep.
Let me see. Scoop who says, who was the girl most recently who got into it with Clark? And Clark was like, I'm not scared of you. I'm not sure, but I mean that's what she's supposed to say. Like you cannot you can't back down. You can't let nobody punk you in competitive anything. You can't let nobody, because once they know you scared, it's over for you. You're not winning nothing. They done already got into your head and it's over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think anybody who's been a competitor understands you're never scared about who you're playing. Now, you might have more awareness based on who the competition is. You might have a little bit more respect based on the competition, but you're never going to be scared.
Exactly. Pooh says, man, when Juju Watkins gets to the W, Lord might go to another level. Exactly, because the snowball is already picking up steam, going downhill right now. It's lit for women's basketball right now, and it's only going to get better. And Juju is exceptional. She is one of them ones. So when she does get to the WNBA, yes, she's going to fit right in. She's going to do her numbers, and it's going to look ugly for everybody else. But that's what it is, and that's what it's supposed to be. The WNBA is supposed to be expanding and getting better and building that brand. And yeah, the younger generations are going to come in. That's what it's about. That's what happens with every sport. As the generations come in, the sport gets more popular. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, and I think Juju as a player, but also her marketability is going to take the W to a different level as well. Mm-hmm. And again, just in terms of this is attractive, this is appealing to see. I don't think Caitlin Clark's a better player than Paige Buckers, but Caitlin Clark's style is more appealing. But if you look at them as players, I think Paige is an overall better player than Caitlin Clark.
There you go. Scoop Hoop says, before y'all go, who do y'all has been the Mount Rushmore of the WNBA? And I'm talking most impactful. Jeez, come on, man. You can't. That's going to be the last question for the day, because you're going to take us. All right. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say Cynthia Cooper. I think she's on the Mount Rushmore. I'm going to say Lisa Leslie. I'll put her on the Mount Rushmore.
There's too many, man.
Oh man, the one that people say always hating on Caitlin Clark.
Cheryl Swoops.
There you go, Cheryl Swoops. I'm gonna say Cheryl Swoops. And man, so many. Who else can we put on? You know what? I'm gonna give that spot to Candace Parker.
There is no wrong answer. You said I'm trying to think who you didn't say. You said
Tarazi, maybe.
Yeah, Tarazi. You got Sue Bird.
Bird is another one. So it's I'm not mad if you took those two.
You got Maya Moore. Yeah, I'm not. There's too many. We'll say that we just named like 7. We'll just go with that, because if not, we'll be here all day trying to name who we think. I think it's tough to just give a Mount Rushmore, especially because the WNBA is still like in terms of history, it's fairly a new league. It's not like the NBA, where the NBA's had these different eras of players.
Yeah.
Right. WNBA's really only got about like a 30-year history. So we're basically comparing all the greats pretty much of the last like 20 years type. And some of the women, it's not even fair. We talk all the time. Cheryl Miller is one of the greatest women players of all time, but she didn't get to play in the W.
Yeah.
So it's tough to. I'll say let's leave it at those 7 that we mentioned.
I will tell you this.
Shamika Holdsclaw, another great.
we're gonna have to reserve 2 spots for Asia Wilson and Breonna Stewart, because I think by the time it's all said and done,
They going, yeah,
they'll be up there as well. So
yeah. That's what
we
I'm
had
saying.
9
Asia,
right
Asia
now.
Wilson is definitely.
Candace Parker for sure, but they need to make it top. I think that's our point, Paul. Is like there's so many legends, so many great WNBA players since its inception. It's a tough one, so I'm not even sure why this whole sort get overlooked. It's probably the outside stuff is probably why she gets overlooked, but she had a really good career as well. And again, she's one of the nicest to ever do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what I mean. But again, like all the names we said, I'm not mad if you had to cut it down to any one of those 4, whatever variation you want to put together, I'm okay with.
Yeah.
All right, Eric, let's get into the final thought segment.
What we got, man? Hope everybody enjoyed their holiday weekend. Hope everybody was safe out there. Shout out to all the supporters. We greatly appreciate you guys, man. Comment section was booming tonight from the start. Keep locking in with us. Probably going to go live during the middle of the week. Probably, what we got? Probably, if Minnesota wins tonight, I'll probably do a Sanchez show pregame on Wednesday before Game 5 of Minnesota OKC. So let's see how tonight and tomorrow go, and that'll determine if we should do something on Wednesday or Thursday. But just definitely lock in with us. We greatly appreciate it.
Sounds good. And I'm going to just say June 14th, Bowling for Peace is going down at John Jay College right here in New York. If you haven't already, get those tickets. H2O has already started dropping the names of the celebrities that are going to be in the building. I saw Ray up there. I saw Lance Stevenson up there. Steph G. Who else did I see up there? Ken Stars I saw up there. It's a lot of names. I can't even name them all right now. I think I saw Graf is gonna be there, which is dope. So it's a lot of people in the building. You got the 3-point contest, you got the celebrity game, you got the high school events, you got all the vendors out there. So make sure you in the building. Oh, and of course you got the dunk contest brought to you by Real Fans Real Talk.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna work on getting the dunkers up here for y'all. Big shout out to the 2-time Real Fans Real Talk and Bowling for Peace slam dunk champion Maxwell Pierce. He just got married. Congratulations to you and the missus, my brother. Wishing you a lifetime of happiness together with your bride. Much love, man. With that being said, for myself, Trip Young. Oh, hold on. Wait a minute. What am I saying here? Sorry. Make sure y'all subscribe to the 2 best podcasts moving. That's the Real Fans Real Talk and the Sanchez Show podcast. And follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, at Real Fan Talk. YouTube.com/For The Fans Productions. And don't worry, if you're not in New York City on Thursday nights from 8 to 9 p.m., you can still watch us from anywhere in the world. Just go to that website, realfansrealtalk.com, click the red button on the homepage, and you can watch from anywhere in the world. And now, with that being said, for myself, Trip Young, and my brother, Eric Sanchez, a.k.a. Legend in 2 Games, we up out of here. Peace.
Enjoy the games.
This is Deion Grant from the New York Giants, Super Bowl champ, and you're watching Real Fans Real Talk.
Live from the can. Vibe the can.
This is Real Fans Real Talk. Real Fans Real Talk. We as real as you thought. Real